Welcome back to Mind Game. Today we rejoin the conversation with Tiffany Egbert as we explore the ways she continues to level up her life by trying new things. We talk about different types of yoga, explore the healing power of breathwork, and dig into how you too can step into your magic and live fully within your purpose and power. Sound intriguing? Join us for a reflective conversation where we delve deeper into how you can step into your magic, which, by the way, is the name of Tiffany's new podcast. So let's get to it. Welcome to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. My name is Stephanie Painshaw, and I'm excited for you to join me on a journey behind the scenes where we'll dig into the stories of resilience, mindset, and unlock the simple habits that will help you change the game. Before we dive in, I want to express our gratitude for your continued support. Your energy powers our quest to provide content that encourages you to unlock new levels of personal growth and step out of your own comfort zone. If you're inspired by an idea or have a suggestion for a future topic, connect with us at mindgamelevelupyourlife.com. Your feedback is a power-up that helps us continue on this epic adventure. So if you're ready to get out of your own way and explore what you didn't know you needed to know, you've come to the right place. So buckle up, open up your mind. It's time to level up. Tiffany is joining us live from Bali. And one of the things that caught my attention is that Tiffany talked about living in Phoenix and moving to Bali and digging into some of the creative works, but also into yoga and breath work and looking into energy and other types of creative disciplines.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I feel like I've been doing a lot more. So I have taken ceramics classes here, which has been really fun. And then I did a 3-day, very intensive natural dye course, which was really, really cool. It was using plants that she literally gathered from her garden, most of them. Yeah, it was really cool. Mm-hmm. It was a lot more complicated than I thought it would be. Like if I wanted to do that on my own, there's a lot of science involved in like how to make the dyes and stuff, but it was still a really fun experience. And then, yeah, I've been taking a lot of classes here, but most of them are like yoga, different types of yoga classes, breath work, different types of meditation, qigong. Like almost every week I try something new or go somewhere new that I haven't been before. So yeah, the next thing I want to try soon is vocal activation, which I think will help me with my podcasting and having more confidence in my voice. But I think it's just a class where you sing and you chant and you do mantras. So it's not anything too crazy, but just gaining more confidence in your voice. Yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Well, I'm curious we'll have to chat again after you try some more of the different classes, because I think that's...
Yeah, I don't quite know either, but I think that's what it is.
I appreciate how brave you are and the courage it takes to go somewhere completely new and try different classes. I know the introvert in me struggles with, okay, we're going somewhere new. We're going to try something that's okay to not be good at it. And that pep talk that I give myself all the time, it's okay, we'll just go. It'll be fun. And then I love learning. So I think that's what I admire in you, that you have moved to a new location. You're trying different things. You're exploring different types of yoga, and that you would share that when we would get together on Monday nights and you'd be like, I just went to a Reiki class, or I just went to some of these different things. So you mentioned different types of yoga. I've always really enjoyed yoga. I find that sort of moving meditation type of thing really, that helps my mind to kind of just focus on that. And it takes a lot more strength than people might realize when you get into some different types of yoga. It's what you said before, it helps you to recognize that you have more strength than you maybe realize that you do. Do you have a favorite type of yoga, or could you tell us just what are some of the differences in the types of yoga?
Yeah, so vinyasa is what most people probably experience when they go to a yoga class. That's like the most normal type of yoga in at least the West. And then there's also hatha, which it could actually look really similar to vinyasa. A lot of the movements and postures are the same, but usually it's more balanced, like maybe half meditative and breathing. And then here in Bali, it's like in Ubud specifically, it's like a huge yoga place. Nice. So there's a lot of yoga teachers basically kind of creating new styles of yoga. So there's one I really like here. It's called empowerment yoga. And he has like a regular vinyasa flow that you can follow if you want, but he really doesn't care if you follow it or not. And then throughout the class, he has different prompts. So he'll ask you different questions like, what does empowerment mean to you? And you can keep doing postures, or you can journal, or you can just like dance. You can go outside and be in the grass. Like, it's very much a do what you want, very self-empowering class. So I always get a lot out of it. What else? Yeah, those are the main types of yoga. And then there's a lot of things here that are like kind of in the same world, but they're not yoga. Different types of meditation, breath work.
And so you've mentioned breath work a few times when we've talked on Monday nights. And I was always a little bit curious as to, I'm assuming it deals with breathing, but I'm not like, I think of the breathing that you yoga, and sometimes that can be more challenging. I did some reading on meditation, and some of the meditations, just the way that you're trying to breathe in but contract certain muscles, it takes a lot of concentration to do that. So I'm just curious, when you talk about breath work, what does it mean?
Yeah, I actually breath work for a little bit over a year now, and I had been in the yoga world for a while, but I had not come across breathwork before until I moved here. And then I had a week where literally 10 people mentioned breathwork, and I was like, oh, it put it on my radar, and I was like, okay, what is this that everyone is talking about? And sometimes when you go to yoga classes, they'll do breath work, but it's like a different thing.
Okay.
There's shorter exercises. It's breath work with like a lowercase b. This is kind of a whole category in and of itself with like very specific methods. But basically, when you breathe, usually you breathe in, there's a pause. You breathe out, there's a pause. But with breath work, you take out those pauses. And there's different styles. Some are more intense than others. And I guess I wish I knew more of the science behind it, because there is a lot of science and research behind it. To me, it just feels like this magical thing because I have these amazing experiences, but there's actually a lot of science behind it. But the first style of breath work I tried, I think it was called like somatic trauma release, and it was a more intense style of breath work. I think we were breathing in and out through our mouth. Like you can either breathe in and out through your mouth or in and out through your nose, but one stimulates the sympathetic nervous system and the other stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're going to have a different experience based on how you're breathing. So after I had all these people mentioning breath work, and I was like, what is this? It sounds amazing. I have to try it. I went to this class. It was the more intense style. And literally there was people screaming. There was people crying. There was people punching pillows. There's people laughing. Like everyone was having their own experience. And for me at the time, I had just moved here, and it was what I had been wanting to do for so long. But I could tell my nervous system was a bit dysregulated because of it was such a big change. And so I was finding myself being really reactive to things that I normally would be so reactive to. And it wasn't fun. So one of the things that I noticed early on with breath work, especially this specific, more intense style, was that I had a lot of stuck emotion and stuck energy and trauma that I hadn't fully processed. And it helped me to process that and release that. And then later I ended up trying rebirthing breathwork, which is the style I do most of the time now. And it's a lot more gentle. It's usually in and out through your nose. And you still can have those types of intense emotional releases. And pretty much almost every time I at least cry, but no one is generally screaming in those classes or punching things. I mean, it could happen, but that's not usually the reaction that you have. So those classes, I take both classes, and then I've been working one-on-one with someone as well. So those sessions, I've been kind of on a journey for a while. It was about balancing my nervous system and dealing with past trauma, or about gaining clarity and inspiration and personal empowerment. So, and now when I do a session, I always set an intention, which I didn't do in the beginning, but you can you're going to have whatever journey you're going to have. But if you set an intention, it does really help of the type of experience that you want to have. So if there's something specific I'm trying to work on, like self-confidence, that was one I did a session one-on-one with my friend who I've been doing sessions with. She kind of catered it to work on self-confidence. So Yeah, it's really hard to describe what it is because it's such a big, powerful experience, and everyone can have such a different experience. And every time you're going to have a different experience.
Okay.
But I've also done shamanic breath work, which is my favorite, but it's not really, I haven't really seen it offered as much. But the main difference that I can tell is that there's a very
Oh,
specific
okay.
type of music that's played. It's kind of like tribal music, and the playlist
Mhm.
is designed in a way where it's like it like builds up and it builds up and it builds up. So I've had experiences in those sessions where I have a
Wow.
very visual journey. It's like you're having a really intense dream, but it really helps you make connection to things that are going on in your life, get clarity, past things that have happened in the past. Yeah, and then for shamanic,
Yeah.
they also play the drum, so there's like a live element, and yeah, those sessions are. I've always felt really empowered afterwards. And some people describe it. I've never done plant medicine, but some people describe breath work, their experience with breath work, as like a similar journey. So the places that you can go into in your mind, it's kind of crazy.
I was going to say, I'm a former biology teacher, so the science is always what makes it really interesting. So you mentioned there's the science behind it, and he goes
Oh,
into
cool.
the science of it and the electromagnetic energy and
Mm-hmm.
changing the brain waves. And as you drop from beta into alpha into theta and into gamma, then you get to different experiences. And he also talks about breath
Mm-hmm.
work, or the one type that I was trying to, in very tiny piece connected to one of the meditations I was trying to learn. And he talks about how it can move the cerebrospinal fluid up into your brain. And so when you breathe in, you actually, there's a
Wow.
pull from the top and it pulls cerebrospinal fluid up, and then it goes down. He said your brain, your skull actually kind of moves microns. You're not going to feel it. But he said when you
Wow.
start to work it, you can turn that cerebrospinal fluid
Yeah.
over faster and cycle it through your body. And then I think it can activate one of the energy centers, which has the pineal gland. And he said when you activate the pineal gland, that then releases, I think it's
Yeah.
melatonin. And I can't remember if that's the right one, but what it releases will help to get you into different levels of brain waves. And he talked about they had a new doctor working with them on the research when they did
Yeah.
their large group work. Said and they always hook people up to monitor as much as can. And the one doctor said that person's having a seizure, and they said no, they've hit a different brain state. All of a sudden, their brain activity went
Wow.
through the roof, but it looked on paper like it was a seizure, but it was actually reaching that higher level, and they were in a deep state and having very visual
Wow.
experiences and different things like that. So when you talk about that, that's what he speaks of, but he doesn't go into that quite as much about how the breath can help that. So I was really curious what breath work was, and how do you, we
Mm-hmm.
talk in education about the difference that when you're feeling dysregulated, breathing or someone else who starts to co-regulate with you can help to mirror that and to settle people down. But it's, I live in rural Saskatchewan, so a breathwork class isn't something that's super easy to access. So if you ever offer something online, let me know, because I would love to try that,
Yeah.
or even just knowing kind of who to
Yeah.
follow. But it sounds, and how long is it something that you have to commit an hour to, or are there shorter types of things that you can do?
Yeah, the ones I usually do are, I think they're usually about 2 hours, and you're only breathing for 45 minutes to an hour of it. But sometimes there's like things in the beginning, like when I do one sessions, we're kind of like catching up in the
Mhm.
beginning to talk about what the intention with the session is and stuff like that. And then we talk about things at the end. And then in the in person classes, maybe there's some like movement exercises just to get you in the
Nice.
right space, and maybe there's discussion afterwards. But yeah, being in Arizona, I had never heard of it. I do know that now there is at least one person doing it. I've heard in Australia it's pretty popular, in Canada it's popular, but if you're in a smaller town, you're not going to find it maybe. But yeah, there's definitely people that are practicing online. I mean, I am not
Mhm.
a practitioner. Eventually, I would love to get this because it's so I've had just so many breakthroughs doing it. But yeah, there are people that are doing kind of online one-on-one sessions, and then I'm sure that there are people doing sessions as well. But the person I've been working with, who is my really close friend, her name's
Okay.
Destiny Wolf. She's in Australia, so she does things there. Also offers one-on-one sessions,
Okay.
but I know right now it's pretty booked up. But yeah, there's other people. Maybe just do a little bit of googling. Yeah, but I would love there to be more online resources out there. There probably is, and I just don't know about them.
I think the
Yeah.
more I read and dig into meditation and energy, and then how you can change your brain waves, how do you establish brain and heart coherence, and he talks about the music that also that we listen to that helps to get you into a certain state and helps to maintain that. He also talks about the electromagnetic field. The heart generates the biggest electromagnetic field, but it will extend a meter and a half out from a person. And so he said when you get multiple people in a room, then that starts to join with the next electromagnetic field and it starts to get bigger and bigger. What is he talks about the light. So the faster than the speed of light, that electromagnetic energy, it stores information. So I don't know if I mentioned in any of our sessions, but he tells the story of organ transplants. And so he said and he said this hasn't happened to everyone, but often after an organ transplant, sometimes there's things that people are like, I'm craving ginger ale. And I actually, it was one of the people I was talking to about it. They said my dad woke up and he was craving ginger ale. He didn't even like it before. But the extreme example he gives in the book, or he gives two. He said the one lady, probably 40 to 50, needed a heart transplant. A young male college student passed away and she got his heart. She woke up craving beer, salty foods. She's like, I don't eat this. Like, I don't eat this stuff. I'm 40. It's not good for me. But when she talked to his family, those were all things. So they said the new research is saying that in the electromagnetic field, it contains that information about your body and a little bit of who you are. The extreme case that he gave was a girl, I think she was around the age of 10 on the heart transplant list. Another girl passed away, similar age. She got her heart. It worked out. It was a match. She started to feel better. She went home from the hospital, started having these terrible nightmares, like extreme nightmares that she was being murdered, that she was being attacked. And her parents were like, this is not normal. She doesn't watch those kind of shows. Like, it doesn't make any sense. The details that she has are way too specific and it's recurring. So they took her to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and the trained professional said, I think she has information on an actual event that happened, possibly whoever's heart she got. So they reached out to the police. The girl had in fact been murdered. The little girl was able to describe the attacker, what he was wearing, where he was, and they actually, based on her information, caught him.
Wow.
Yeah, but he said the research that they have now is where some of that energy is stored. So he said that's certainly an extreme example. So when you were talking about what role does it play and what's some of the science, they are doing some amazing research into those areas about how we used to think about the world and how the quantum field changes a little bit compared to the Newtonian, where it's cause and effect. So everything happens in this logical flow and this logical timeline, to the quantum field where everything is available all around us all at once. It depends on vibrationally where you're at. And he said in the quantum field, once you learn you can cause an effect, then you can create the changes in your life, which goes back to, I think, that mindset about, do we believe we're an artist? Do we believe that we're creative? Do we have the confidence to do that? But it was a very interesting read. And so some of the things you were mentioning, he talks about them connected to the brain and the heart. And then instead of matter, it's the waves and the energy. So it was really interesting. So it's exciting to hear how the different pieces line up. One of the things that we talked about as we were all trying to build our podcasts and think about what are some of the things that will make our podcasts unique was what's a habit or a strategy. And I think you had mentioned breathwork.
I think for me, it's just I've tried to make it a regular practice. So I try to do it once a week. I mean, I guess that is the practice, just to do the breath work. I wish I had like smaller little exercises I could share. Most of the breath work I've done is like that I've really been impacted by are the guided sessions. I think especially it can bring up a lot. And so it's really important when you're doing like the longer sessions that you have a guide, because that's also, the guide is like trauma informed. That's really important.
If you know that you have some things that you want to work through, that having that person to guide you through can, I think when it's like when I can do a workout and if I just follow what Carolyn Gervin tells me to do, I do one set and then whatever she says next, I don't have to think about it. I can just be in the moment. So I would think when you work with a guide who's trauma informed, they can help you navigate that process and work you through different things that come up. The other piece I really like is that you said consistency, because one of the quotes that keeps coming up in my reels and my TikTok is, you have to just start, first of all, and then you have to be consistent and you have to keep doing those things, because it's the small habits that you build every day. It's the
Yeah.
little things that you don't think that matter that add up to those big changes over time. And so I appreciate that you said that consistency piece is huge. Earlier,
Yeah.
you mentioned a book called Big Magic. And I think one of the things that we're going to do in Mind Game is talk about a quote or something that inspires you. And so I think one of the quotes that you mentioned might have
Mm-hmm.
come from Big Magic, if I'm thinking of the right book.
Yeah, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. It's one of my favorite books. I recommend it to everyone. Definitely if you identify as a creative person. It's all about creativity and creative process. And the quote was, follow your curiosity. And it's kind of in opposition to this idea of follow your passion, because passion can be a bit intimidating, especially if you aren't quite sure what your passion is. Curiosity is a lot gentler. Everyone has curiosity. It's very accessible. And like with me in my creative journey, it was just like one little thing at a time, one little ping at a time, like following a path. And yeah, taking the pressure off of it, that it doesn't have to be good. You just have to enjoy it. Like when I started painting, I like the paintings that I first created were like interesting enough to me that I like wanted back at them, and I'm like, oh, those are not good, but I was proud of them and I thought they were awesome. So yeah, just taking pressure off of yourself and just getting curious and just trying to see, like, is there anything I'm interested in, and just trying it.
Which I think is a good reminder for all of us to just find those moments or those things that light you up and give you that joy, and make some time to do that, because life gets going and you're like, I'm doing this and then I have this and then I have this. So building in those moments to do a few things for you, something that
Yeah.
brings you joy, or breath work, something that's good for you, or a healthy habit. One of
Yeah.
the motivational talks I listened to while I was out walking today, and I didn't fall today because it got very slippery last week and I had a little bit of a wipeout. I'm okay. Pay attention to the road that
Oh
you're walking
no.
on. Yes. Well,
You got too into what you were listening to.
it was a warm day, and I thought everything was slippery, but this driveway was slanted, but it had been cleaned. It just had this little skiff of snow, and I thought that it's fine. Like, I navigated over the ice just previously. No,
It's all
I
good.
landed on my butt very quickly, and I thought, oh, okay, I feel like a little kid. I kind
Oh.
of slid and sat down, and then I got up and I thought, wonder if they have a doorbell camera, as I'm dusting myself off and headed off down the road. But sometimes they have meditations on there as well. They're like, don't do anything else while you're doing that. Well, I'm going to walk. Yes. So I'm like,
Uh-huh.
I make sure to look when
Yeah.
I cross the
Don't
street.
be
But
driving.
and the sidewalks aren't all that even, so you have to kind of just pay attention to there. But
Yeah.
this one today was, you need to find something every day that brings you joy. He said you need to give yourself permission to do something just for you, because it lights you up, that
Yeah.
it'll give you energy, you'll be healthier, and it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be 5 hours that you're going to go play hockey somewhere, or you're going to read a book for 5 hours. Be for 10 minutes, I am going to listen to something that brings me joy. I read my book, water my plants. I'm going to set an intention for that next little bit. And one of the things I was listening to before we got on the podcast here to record was some of your work on your podcast, and that's how we met. And I loved what you said, and I'm trying to remember, you said to live a life with purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to say passion, but I don't think that's what it was. It was to find that creativity and find the joy in life. So if you want to tell us a little bit about your podcast, I think it's launching in January.
Yeah. January 1st. Yes. So we still have a little bit of time. Yeah. So it's called Stepping Into Your Magic, and it's all about kind of stepping into the gifts and magic that are inside of each one of us, and just fully living in your purpose and power. And so it's going to be I'm not sure if that's exactly what I said before, but yeah,
That is really
step.
good. I wrote it down. Yes, fully live within your purpose and your power. That was my favorite line. I
Yeah.
was like, yes, I cannot wait to listen to this podcast. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So it's going to be a mix of interviews with different types of artists, creatives, just on their creative process and their creative journey and what they're making, what they're up to. Then the other half of it is going to be all about mindset and mindfulness. So I have meditation teachers, breathwork facilitators, different types of people in that space to kind of help with the mindset part of everything. Because yeah, if you're blocked, you have blocks, you can't really make the things that are inside of you. It's like me for so many years. I had no idea what I was capable of, because I had all those blocks and I wouldn't even try anything. And then I've just been so surprised. And usually, when you try something new, you're not going to be good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you commit to it, eventually you'll be able to create something that you're proud of. But yeah, I had no idea I had those skills and abilities until I actually did it. So the podcast, I really want it to be super empowering for people. Just hearing different stories of different types of creatives and things that could be possible for them maybe, and just kind of helping remove those blocks that, a listener might have so that they can move forward on something that they've been dreaming about. So not only be able to create their dream work, which is really important as a creative, but create their dream lives,
I cannot wait to listen to your podcast. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm going to write more stuff down. I need to learn.
Yeah.
We all have that creativity inside of us that we had. We all have those things that we love to do, and to figure out what it is that's blocking it, or the more research that I do, it's the words that we say to ourselves every day. And the most important words are the ones we say to ourselves. And we get so caught up in that. And I've tried to become, I think it's always a work in progress. I'm trying to get better at thinking, I haven't done that yet, staying in that growth mindset, stepping out of my comfort zone and hitting publish on the podcast, or reaching out to meet new people. There's just so many things that I think we don't even realize that we've defined the boundaries of our life. And they're like, well, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, you could. Do you want to? And I think that
Yeah.
your podcast sounds very similar to mine, but in just from different perspectives and with different people.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn from you and just hear how to live with, or fully live within your purpose and your power. That is probably one of my favorite phrases, to find what lights you up. And in the Dr. Joe Dispenza Supernatural book, they now have technology that can track the light given off by electrons. So not that we can see it, but that deep level of the light. And he said, when people are doing things that they're passionate about, that have purpose, that they're curious and they're fully engaged in, or they're in that flow state, they actually look brighter, and that they add energy back into the quantum field rather than pull it out. He said, we're all surrounded by energy. And when and I was just learning about the different energy centers. He said, when we're depleted in one, then we're pulling from the field. And when you keep pulling the energy out of the field that's around you, you start to deplete it. So you need ways to regenerate that and unblock things to get deeper in and find those things that you love. And that leads to the life that you really can live. And we don't have to be stuck where we are, because often stuck is defined by us. And we don't know that we've defined that little box because we haven't probably had time to even think that it's there. So just looking at my questions here, what would you say to your younger self? So if you were looking back, or even as a mother looking at your daughter as she's growing up, what would be something that you would say to your younger self?
Yeah, there's a few things I would say. I would say you are so beautiful. I think like we look back at pictures of ourselves, maybe like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and we remember like the things that we thought about ourselves. And then we age and we're like, oh my gosh, I was so beautiful then and I didn't appreciate it or think that, So I think especially as a teenager, I really struggled with self-confidence, and I had acne, but literally there are no pictures that exist of me with any sort of blemishes on my face. So I don't think it was that bad, but in my head it was huge.
Yes.
And that like really affected my self-confidence for a long time. So yeah, I mean, it seems like a superficial thing, but I feel like to know that you are beautiful and you are valuable and you matter, those things I would tell my younger self. And also, life is going to be so good. It's going to be hard, but it's going to be so good. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we always look back and we go, oh, 10 years ago, look how young I looked there. And they were like, oh, one of the people I hope to interview, I think Madison Cameron, she speaks about social media and the impact on youth. She said she was working in a school as an EA, and one of her teachers said that she was working with said, how is it going? And she said, well, I'm trying to learn how to navigate life and work in this job, and was coming out of COVID. So kind of figuring out what does life look? And she was transitioning out of playing college basketball in the States States. And he said, well, this is the first time I'm 52. I've never been this age before. So we're all just figuring it out as we go, and that permission to figure it out. And I agree. You are beautiful. You are creative. Do what lights you up. It's those bumps in the roads are moments in time which seem like a big deal in that moment.
Yeah.
But then as life continues and you gain a little bit of perspective, you'll find the people to connect with, and you'll find what you love to do, and just to be yourself and keep going. So I think that's fantastic advice to a younger self. So the fact that you mentioned creativity and curiosity, those are some of my values. And one of the other ones that came up is connecting people. So I'm super excited that I was able to talk to you and with all of my growing audience, because we're all growing an audience on our podcast. And I think one of my goals is to be a connector. I don't know if you've read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point, where he talks about the different types. He talks about 3 types of people, and there's the maven who has really deep knowledge base on something. That's the person you go to because they know that craft. And then there's the connector who knows somebody who can connect you with someone else. And then there's the person who's really good at, I think it's sales. I can always struggle to remember the third one, but connection is one of those pieces. So bringing people together and sharing people's stories, I think that's one of my favorite things. And to learn what breathwork is and the power of yoga and the importance of art, and that there's science in art. Like I said, the science teacher in me is always like, look, science is everywhere and it can be creative. Science doesn't have to be first this, then this. Science can be more creative and help us to do amazing things. So thank you so much for joining me here tonight, tomorrow morning, in the morning, because time zone. So this is one thing I've learned working in entrepreneurial things. In school, you should really pay attention to time zones, because you never realized how much time zones would play a role in the future. And I don't think I would have ever imagined a world where I would be talking to you in Bali, that living in Saskatchewan, I would be able to connect with you in Indonesia. I think that's been a huge change in my lifetime. And you talked about connecting with different people there and around the world. I think such an amazing world that we can connect on 2 sides of the globe, and that you get to live in an absolutely amazing place. What's one thing that you love about Bali, besides the fact that your family is in Bali? Is there something that just really resonates with you and keeps you there? Because you said you've been there a year. What is it that keeps drawing you into Bali?
Yeah, there's so many things. Literally, if someone had to design the perfect place for me to live, I think this would be it. I think just being surrounded by nature and green and beauty, natural beauty, is really big for me. Like, I can drive 20 to 30 minutes and be at a waterfall, and that feels so good. I'm not really as much of a beach person, but the jungle, I love the color. I love all the plants and the flowers. And then, there's a huge yoga scene here, yoga community, which is a big part of my life. So that's wonderful for me. And then there's just like a really magical energy here, which I don't fully understand, but there's something different going on here for sure. I felt it the first time I came. Maybe it was like 8 years ago or something. And there was all these coincidences that happened to us leading up to coming and then getting here. And it was just obvious, like something is going on here. I don't understand it, but it's like they say, I'm from Arizona, and people say like, oh, Sedona, it's the vortex. It has all this special energy. And I've never really experienced that. But here I'm like, okay, there's something happening. I don't understand it, but it feels, there's a lot of really beautiful, good, creative energy here. A lot of, just a lot going on. A lot of people come here to heal, to deal with things, and are on a very specific journey and path. And so like the conversations that you have here are like really deep and really, I don't know, connected. And it's just it's a really good place to be.
It sounds amazing. And it sounds like you've literally stepped into your magic, which makes sense for your podcast. Literally, you've stepped into it. It's really interesting to hear you describe it in that way, that you can feel there's a shift in the energy and to be surrounded by that.
And I'm not even one of those people who is like really knows a lot about energy, or, there's something, I don't know. And a lot of other people have said the same thing. It's not just me.
And a lot of us would be like, okay, so we watched the movie Eat, Pray, Love. We read Elizabeth Gilbert's book or her TED Talk. And she talks about going there. And that's kind of the stereotypical, it looks like an amazing tropical place. But to actually talk to you and hear you talk about, that energy would it's said to have been in Sedona, but also this is just a different type of energy. And I think
Yeah.
that's really interesting. And someday I would love to get to Bali and just feel what it's like and see all of that lovely green, because
Yeah.
we're in winter now. So
Yeah.
there isn't a whole lot of green here. There's
Yeah.
not even a whole lot of snow this year, which is weird. And I'm still walking outside, which is a bonus. But anytime that
Yeah.
you can step into nature and just take those few moments, and I think even if it's just getting outside, regardless of where you live, that can be a really good way to help level up your life and just rebalance.
Wow, what an amazing conversation with Tiffany. I'd love to know what part of the conversation resonated with you most. Was it learning about the different types of yoga, what breathwork with a capital B means, or was it her favorite quotation from Big Magic, the reminder to follow our curiosity rather than searching for our passion? Tiffany's tip to level up was consistently doing the work. What's one thing that you might commit to consistently doing in the new year? Or how might you set an intention before you take a few moments for yourself? We all have the same 24 hours in a day. What's required to level up is being brave enough to step out of your comfort zone and try something new, or return to something that brings you joy. For more information on how to step into your magic and fully live in your purpose and power, be sure to check out Tiffany's podcast, aptly called Stepping Into Your Magic. I can hardly wait to listen. Huge thank you to Tiffany Egbert for joining me to share how she minds the game and works to level up her life. It's time for your episode 3 Mind Game Level Up Your Life Challenge. This one is share this episode and one thing you're interested in learning more about, and hashtag it Level Up Your Life. And for a bonus, head on over to Stepping Into Your Magic and follow Tiffany Egbert's brand new podcast, Stepping Into Your Magic. Thank you for choosing to listen to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. We hope that you've enjoyed the insights, inspiration, and habits shared in this episode. Your support is a game changer, and we are incredibly grateful to be on this journey with such an amazing community of listeners. If you have any wonders, questions, or suggestions about this or future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media and share your feedback. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring valuable content to you, our listeners. Don't want to miss the next episode? Join our Facebook group and email list and get ahead of the game. Until next time, remember to mind the game so that you can get out of your own way and level up your life.